Thank you for all your positive feedbacks yesterday about the voice that was not properly done. Thank you so very much, because this is helping us get better. So this video I'm doing now is like a correction of what we did yesterday, trying to be a bit audible. Yesterday we were talking about flight dispatch responsibility, touching our previous video which we did about flight dispatch responsibility, which had to do with load control. We made mention of dispatcher being a hub of information between the crew and other agencies, between the crew and the checked-in counter and every other agent or every other department that is responsible for flight operation. So we try to explain what their responsibilities are, get information from the checked-in counter, relay to the crew, do the load sheet, issue loading instruction to load masters, and make sure the aircraft are loaded or is loaded in accordance with the issued loading instruction. Apart from that, do you know that a pilot will not just come in, enter the cockpit and fly the aircraft, that there is someone who will sit down and carefully plot the route of flight. Do you know that the routes of flight have airways? Just the same way you have highway on the road, they are airways with specific names. They are reporting points. They are routes, they are track of flight. This is usually the job of an aircraft flight dispatcher, especially in the commercial setting, commercial airlines. They sit down with their map and their charts, plot the route of flight, taking into consideration weather and other factors that may affect the route, using, like what I mentioned in our previous video, performance dispatch, to do step climb, to look for optimum flight level, optimum flight paths, determine the necessary amount of fuel for each leg of flight. Is the job of a dispatcher. So before a pilot comes in, enters the cockpit, or first go to operations control center and does what is called crew briefing, a dispatch should have planned the flight, done pre-flight brief to the crew. The crew will accept that route, and then they will come for final flight briefing, which the crew will now listen and get the final flight brief from the dispatch, telling them where they are going, the route they are planned, the quantity of fuel they plan, the load they are expecting on that day, expected weather conditions, and other factors. And also give them information about their destination. In the private jet setting, in the corporate setting, most times people go to new destinations. Like, for instance, if you are planning Lagos to Freetown and you don't have a base in Freetown, a dispatcher would have made necessary arrangements on ground Freetown for handling, for passenger handling, crew handling, hotel accommodation, transportation, fuel release, whatever that is required to make the flight seamless, efficient, and of course safe. Now, he doesn't just go with a crew, a set of crew. A pilot will just come in, enter his route in his FMS, what we call FMS, flight management systems or flight management computers. That's the same screen you see in the cockpit. Those routines are carefully plotted by the dispatcher. After plotting those routes, it will generate what is called operational flight plan, which is a product of all his plannings, which have information about the routing, information about the wind, information about the load in some cases, have information about NOTAMs, that's the information about where they are going, other circular information that could affect the flight, positively or negatively. All those information are documented and they come out as one document that is called operational flight plan. This operational flight plan is actually the product of the dispatch planning, which is now handed to the crew. The dispatcher will sign and the pilot in command will sign, giving them that joint responsibility relationship in dispatching, releasing, or cancelling the flight for safety. So when next time you are flying, just bear it in mind. You see some guys jumping up and down the cockpit, making sure that everything is in check. They are talking to the crew, they are going down talking to the cabin crew, they are going down talking to the load masters. They are using radio, you see them talking to the check-in counters and all those places. They are everywhere. They're just trying to coordinate, make sure that everything is in check. These guys pay attention to details. These guys have good knowledge of maps and charts. These guys have good knowledge of meteorology. They have good knowledge of geography and all that. This helps them to do their flight. So if you are considering this career, it's a good career, but man, make sure that you know what you're asking for. So please, this is just to correct our previous video. This is a bit audible, I believe. In our next video, we'll be going into those aspects of flight briefing. What do we actually brief the crew in flight, before flight? What do we actually tell them about? What do we actually do while briefing? So in the next video, we are going to talk about crew briefing. That's after planning your flight. And then the crew have reported, you now need to brief them, especially international standards. There are methods of briefing. There are steps in briefing. In fact, there's a briefing checklist. So you don't brief offhand. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy.